Hello everyone. Naruto Fix here, back with another amazing What If Naruto fanfic. Which is, what if Naruto's story was not about one love, but many feelings? Part 1. If you enjoy Naruto stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the journey grow. Now let's head right into today's fanfic. Naruto Uzumaki's story had always been told as a story of dreams. A lonely boy who wanted acknowledgement. A shinobi who chased strength. A hero who brought peace. But what no one ever truly spoke about were the feelings that grew quietly around him, feelings that were never meant to become a single romance, never meant to end with one confession or one name. Naruto's story was not about one love. It was about many feelings. Felt, shared, misunderstood, accepted, and sometimes left unspoken. And that made it far more human than any legend. After the war, Konoha rebuilt itself slowly, carefully, as if afraid to move too fast and break something fragile. Naruto walked its streets every day, no longer chased by hatred or expectation, but surrounded by people who knew his name, his face, his story. Yet even in peace, Naruto felt something unsettled inside him. Not loneliness, not longing. Something quieter. Naruto had always been loud with his emotions when he was younger. He laughed too hard, shouted his dreams, declared his feelings without thinking. Back then, emotions were simple: pain, hope, anger, desire. Everything burned brightly. But now, emotions no longer arrived as fire. They came as warmth, as hesitation, as awareness. And Naruto didn't know what to do with that. He noticed it first with Sakura. They worked together often now. Medical missions, village planning, training younger shinobi. Sakura no longer looked at him with the confusion or frustration of the past. Their bond had matured into something strong and steady. One evening, as they walked back from the hospital, Sakura said quietly, "You know, you make people feel safe." Naruto blinked. Safe. She nodded. Not protected. Safe enough to be honest. Naruto thought about that long after she left. He realized Sakura didn't love him the way she once did. But there was affection there. Respect. Gratitude. A shared past that didn't demand a future. And Naruto felt something unfamiliar. Peace. With Ino, the feeling was different. Ino never hid her emotions. She spoke freely, laughed boldly, questioned him openly. Around her, Naruto felt alert, present in every word, every pause. She challenged him, teased him, and sometimes stared at him as if she were trying to understand something even she couldn't name. One afternoon, she said bluntly, "You confuse people, you know." Quote. Naruto laughed. "I've been doing that since birth." Ino shook her head. "No. You make people feel things without telling them what to do with those feelings." Naruto stopped laughing. She was right. And that realization stayed with him. Temari's presence brought yet another feeling. There was no softness there, only sharp clarity. Temari respected Naruto as an equal, a leader, a man who understood restraint. Their conversations were direct, their silences comfortable. Temari once said, "You don't cling to emotions." Naruto answered honestly, "I used to. It hurt." Temari nodded. "You learned balance." With her, Naruto felt grounded. Not emotionally pulled, not romantically confused. Just understood. And then there was Hinata. Hinata had always been there, quietly, patiently, without demand. Her feelings had never tried to change Naruto. They existed alongside him, steady and unassuming. Naruto felt something deeper around her. Not urgency, not excitement, but calm. The kind of calm that made him aware of his own breathing, his own thoughts. One evening, they stood near the training grounds, watching the sky darken. "You seem thoughtful lately," Hinata said softly. Naruto nodded. "I think I'm finally noticing things I ignored before." Hinata smiled gently. "Feelings don't disappear just because we don't name them." Quote. Naruto looked at her, surprised by the quiet truth in her words. That night, Naruto sat alone on his balcony, the village lights glowing softly below. He thought about all the emotions that surrounded him. Not just love, but trust, admiration, comfort, respect, warmth. None of them demanded ownership. None of them asked for promises. They simply existed. Naruto realized something important then. His story was never meant to be about choosing one feeling and rejecting all others. It was about learning how to carry many feelings honestly, without guilt, without confusion, without turning them into something they were not meant to be. Love was not always romance. Sometimes it was connection. Sometimes it was safety. Sometimes it was understanding without possession. Naruto Uzumaki had spent his life chasing acknowledgement. Now, he was learning something far more difficult. How to live with many feelings without letting any of them control him. And that lesson was only beginning. Naruto did not wake up the next morning with answers. What he woke up with was awareness. The kind that stayed with him as he washed his face, as he ate breakfast, as he stepped into the sunlight of the village. It followed him quietly, not asking questions, only observing. He began to notice the emotional undercurrents that had always been there, flowing beneath ordinary moments. A nod held a memory. A smile carried gratitude. A pause carried unspoken understanding. And Naruto realized that feelings were everywhere. Not dramatic, not demanding, just present. He walked past the academy, slowing his steps without realizing it. Children were training clumsily, laughing, falling, getting back up. A few waved when they recognized him. Naruto waved back, smiling softly. Once, he had wanted their admiration. Now, he felt something else. Responsibility. Not the heavy kind that came with titles or expectations, but the quiet kind that came with influence. Naruto understood that emotions didn't grow in isolation. They grew in response to how someone made you feel over time. And he had made many people feel seen. Later that day, Sakura asked him to help with paperwork at the hospital. They sat across from each other, stacks of files between them, working in silence that felt natural rather than awkward. You've been quieter lately, Sakura said after a while. Naruto smiled faintly. Am I? Sakura nodded. Not withdrawn. Just thoughtful. Naruto considered that. I think I'm noticing how people feel instead of reacting to it. Quote. Sakura leaned back slightly. That's dangerous. Naruto laughed. How so? Because once you notice, she said gently, you're responsible for how you act. Naruto stopped smiling. Sakura wasn't warning him. She was acknowledging growth. And Naruto felt both proud and uneasy. He noticed the difference later when he ran into Ino near her family's shop. She greeted him with her usual confidence, but her eyes searched his face longer than before. You're not distracting me today, she said. Naruto blinked. I usually do. Ino smirked. You're usually either joking or saying something unexpectedly deep. Today you're present. Naruto nodded slowly. I'm trying to be. Ino's expression softened, just for a moment. Careful. Presence makes people honest. Naruto understood what she meant. Honesty could be dangerous if mishandled. Temari's message arrived by Hawk in the afternoon. It wasn't long. Feelings aren't enemies, it read. But they aren't commands either. Naruto folded the note carefully. Temari always had a way of cutting to the center without unnecessary words. He respected that about her. With Temari, emotions never felt messy. They felt defined, acknowledged, and left alone to exist without interference. Naruto realized that not every feeling needed nurturing. Some simply needed respect. Hinata crossed his path at dusk. She was returning from training, hair tied back, expression calm. When she saw him, she slowed slightly, matching his pace without speaking at first. You seem calmer, she said softly. Naruto looked at her. I think I stopped fighting my feelings. Hinata nodded. Feelings don't like being fought. Naruto smiled at that. They walked together for a while, the path familiar, the silence comfortable. Naruto felt something steady in his chest. Not excitement, not confusion. Recognition. With Hinata, feelings did not compete with each other. They layered gently, like warmth settling rather than fire flaring. That night, Naruto sat on his balcony again, but this time he did not analyze. He allowed himself to feel everything without sorting it. Affection that didn't ask for romance. Respect that didn't need closeness. Warmth that didn't demand a future. He realized that many of the feelings surrounding him were not incomplete versions of love. They were complete emotions in their own right. And trying to force them into one definition would only break them. Naruto thought about how stories were told. Heroes were expected to choose one love, one destiny, one ending. But real life did not work that way. Real life was layered, contradictory, quietly complex. Naruto's story, he realized, was not about narrowing his heart. It was about expanding his understanding. He whispered a thought into the night air, not as a vow, but as acceptance. I don't have to turn every feeling into a decision. Quote. And with that realization, something inside him relaxed. Naruto Uzumaki did not need to simplify his emotions to live honestly. He needed to acknowledge them without letting them rule him. And that, more than any confession or choice, was the beginning of something new. Naruto began to understand that feelings did not ask for permission to exist. They appeared in the smallest moments. When someone lingered a second longer than necessary, when a conversation softened unexpectedly, when silence felt shared rather than empty. He had spent years believing emotions were problems to solve or battles to win. Now he saw them as signals, quiet indicators of connection, trust, and shared history. And signals were meant to be read, not silenced. He started changing how he moved through the village. Not consciously at first, just small adjustments. He paused before speaking. He listened all the way through before responding. He stopped trying to lighten every serious moment with humor. Naruto realized that sometimes people didn't need encouragement or laughter. They needed acknowledgement. That shift was most visible during a small gathering at the training grounds. Several kunoichi were sparring and discussing techniques, voices overlapping, opinions clashing. Naruto stood nearby, observing. At one point, the discussion grew tense, not angry, but emotionally charged. Old Naruto would have jumped in, joked, redirected, smoothed everything over. Instead, he said nothing. He waited. The tension resolved itself. Voices lowered. Understanding emerged without interference. Sakura glanced at him afterward, surprised. You didn't step in, she said. Naruto shrugged. Didn't feel necessary. Quote. Sakura studied him for a moment, then nodded. You're learning when not to be involved. Naruto felt something settle at those words. Restraint, he realized, was also a form of care. Later, Sakura walked with him along a quiet street. You know, she said thoughtfully, people used to fall for you because you never gave up. Naruto smiled faintly. And now, she continued, they feel something because you don't take over. Naruto considered that. He had always believed love came from effort. From persistence. From proving you would stay no matter what. Now he was learning that sometimes love came from knowing when to step back. And that didn't make it weaker. It made it safer. Ino experienced this change differently. She noticed that Naruto no longer matched her energy automatically. He didn't always joke back. He didn't always push conversations forward. Instead, he mirrored her mood. Light when she was light, serious when she was serious. One afternoon, she stopped him outside her shop. You're not trying to charm me today, she said. Naruto laughed quietly. Was I doing that before? Ino rolled her eyes. All the time. But now you're just here. Naruto nodded. I figured being present matters more than being impressive. Ino's expression softened. It does. But it also makes things clearer. Naruto understood what she meant. Clarity was comforting. But it also removed illusions. And illusions were often where unexamined feelings hid. Naruto reflected on that later while walking alone. He had inspired affection by being dependable, by being kind, by being consistent. Those qualities didn't disappear just because he changed how he expressed them. But they did change how people responded. People no longer projected as much onto him. They met him where he stood. And that was when feelings revealed the true shape. Temari visited Konoha briefly for a diplomatic meeting. They spoke afterward, standing near the village gates, wind moving gently through the open space. "You've changed," she said, direct as ever. Naruto smiled. "In a good way." Temari smirked. "In a controlled way. You're not absorbing emotions like you used to." Naruto nodded. "I think I mistook that for empathy." Quote. Temari folded her arms. "Empathy doesn't mean carrying everything. It means understanding without drowning." Naruto respected her for that clarity. With Temari, feelings were never confused for obligation. They were acknowledged and left intact. Hinata felt the change most quietly, and most deeply. Naruto's presence around her had grown softer, more deliberate. He did not fill silences. He did not search her expressions for reassurance. He trusted the space between them. They sat together one evening near the Hyuga grounds, the sky turning shades of orange and purple. "You seem lighter," Hinata said softly. Naruto nodded. "I stopped trying to define everything I feel." Quote. Hinata smiled. "Feelings don't need names to be real." Naruto looked at her, surprised, not by the words, but by how true they felt. With Hinata, emotions did not press forward. They rested. Naruto realized something essential then. His story was not about romance waiting to be chosen. It was about emotional literacy. Learning to understand, respect, and coexist with many feelings without turning them into demands. Affection did not always want a future. Admiration did not always want closeness. Warmth did not always want romance. Some feelings simply wanted acknowledgement. That night, Naruto wrote in a small notebook he had kept since the war. Not plans. Not goals. Observations. I don't have to act on every feeling. I don't have to reject them either. I can let them exist without turning them into promises. He closed the notebook and felt a sense of calm he hadn't known before. Not the calm of certainty. The calm of understanding. Naruto Uzumaki had once believed his heart was something to be filled. Now he understood it was something to be understood. And that understanding, slow, layered, honest, was reshaping every connection he had. His story was not about choosing one love. It was about learning how to live truthfully among many feelings. And that journey had only just begun. Naruto began to understand that feelings were not linear. They did not move forward in neat lines or wait their turn to be acknowledged. They overlapped, echoed, and sometimes contradicted each other. And yet, none of them were wrong. They were simply responses to kindness, to time spent together, to trust built slowly and honestly. Once Naruto stopped trying to rank those feelings, they stopped overwhelming him. He noticed how differently people spoke when he no longer rushed to respond. During a planning meeting, a kunoichi hesitated before sharing an idea. Naruto waited, eyes attentive, posture relaxed. The silence stretched, but it was not uncomfortable. She spoke. Her voice steadied as she continued. Afterward, she looked relieved, not because her idea had been accepted, but because she had been heard. Naruto realized that many feelings were born not from romance, but from recognition. And recognition was powerful. Sakura felt that power one evening as they sorted supplies together. She paused suddenly, fingers resting on a clipboard. "You don't fix things anymore," she said. Naruto glanced at her. "Is that bad?" Sakura shook her head. "No. It just means I don't feel like I'm being watched to see if I'm okay." Naruto considered that. You are okay. Sakura smiled, something soft in her eyes. I know. That's the difference. She didn't need reassurance. She needed respect. And Naruto had learned how to give it without taking space away from her. Ino felt something similar, but sharper. They argued lightly about flower arrangements one afternoon, the debate half serious, half playful. When Naruto stopped and said, "You're right," without deflection or joke, Ino blinked. That's it? She asked. Naruto shrugged. Yeah. Ino laughed, surprised. You used to fight harder. Naruto smiled. I don't need to anymore. Ino studied him, then nodded slowly. She realized then that what she felt around Naruto was not attraction trying to become romance. It was appreciation learning where to stop. And that realization didn't sting. It clarified. Temari's voice returned to Naruto's thoughts during a quiet walk. Feelings aren't commands. He finally understood what she meant. Just because something was felt did not mean it had to be acted upon. Feelings could inform without directing. They could exist without turning into choices. That understanding freed him. Hinata sensed the calm more deeply than anyone. Naruto's presence around her was no longer charged with uncertainty. It was steady, grounded, almost gentle. When they trained together, he corrected her form when needed and said nothing when she already knew. They walked together after training, the path quiet. You don't seem lost anymore, Hinata said softly. Naruto thought for a moment. I think I stopped trying to find one answer. Hinata nodded. Some stories aren't meant to be narrowed. Quote. Naruto looked at her, surprised. She smiled shyly. They're meant to be understood. With Hinata, feelings never demanded resolution. They simply deepened. Naruto spent more evenings alone now, not out of isolation, but out of reflection. He thought about how many times he had mistaken intensity for truth. How often he had believed that the strongest feeling must be the right one. Now he knew better. The loudest feeling was not always the truest. Sometimes, the truest feeling was the one that stayed quiet and constant, even when ignored. He sat on his balcony again, looking out at the village lights. I don't have to simplify myself, he thought. I don't have to fit into one story. Naruto Uzumaki was not a symbol of one love fulfilled. He was a person shaped by many connections, many emotions, many shared moments that did not cancel each other out. And that did not make his story weaker. It made it real. Naruto finally accepted that his heart did not need to choose one feeling to honor the rest. It needed honesty. It needed awareness. It needed patience. And with that understanding, Naruto felt lighter, not because emotions disappeared, but because he no longer feared them. His story was not about one love. It was about learning how to live with many feelings without losing himself in any of them. And that lesson, quiet, complex, deeply human, was still unfolding. Naruto started to notice something subtle about himself. He no longer felt the need to respond to every emotion he sensed. Earlier in his life, feelings had demanded action, comfort had to be given immediately, tension had to be brook. Sadness had to be chased away with words or promises. Now, Naruto understood that emotions were not emergencies. They were conversations. And conversations required listening more than speaking. One afternoon, Naruto sat with a group of kunoichi during a break from training. The talk drifted from missions to memories, from frustrations to small victories. Naruto listened more than he spoke, nodding occasionally, offering a few words only when they felt necessary. At one point, the conversation quieted. No one rushed to fill the silence. Naruto felt the shift and recognized it, not as awkwardness, but as comfort. People were no longer performing around him. They were simply being. That, Naruto realized, was where many feelings were born. Not from desire, from safety. Later, Sakura found him alone near the hospital garden. You're different around people now, she said thoughtfully. Naruto smiled faintly. Different how? You don't pull emotions toward yourself anymore, Sakura replied. You let them stay where they are. Naruto considered that. I think I used to believe caring meant absorbing everything. Quote. Sakura nodded. That's exhausting. Naruto laughed quietly. Yeah, I finally noticed. Sakura leaned against the railing beside him. People mistake intensity for depth. You're showing them depth without intensity. Quote. Naruto felt warmth at her words. With Sakura, the feeling was no longer romantic, no longer conflicted. It was something steadier, mutual recognition of growth. Their bond had evolved into a quiet respect that did not ask for anything more. And that felt right. Ino experienced the change more dramatically. She was used to strong reactions, strong emotions, strong feedback. Naruto's new calm disarmed her at first. When she teased him, he smiled but didn't deflect. When she challenged him, he answered honestly without turning it into a game. One evening, she said bluntly, "You don't make me want to push you anymore." Naruto raised an eyebrow. Is that good or bad? Quote. Ino thought about it. Good. It means I'm not trying to figure you out. Naruto nodded. I'm still figuring myself out. Ino smiled faintly. Yeah, but you're not confusing me anymore. She realized then that what she felt was not something that needed to grow into romance. It was clarity. And clarity, surprisingly, felt peaceful. Temari's influence lingered in Naruto's thoughts. He remembered her words about balance, about not drowning in empathy. Naruto finally understood that emotions were not meant to be carried endlessly. They were meant to be acknowledged, respected, and sometimes released. When Temari returned briefly for another meeting, their conversation was short and direct. You seem grounded, she said. Naruto nodded. I stopped trying to resolve everything. Temari smirked. Good. Resolution is overrated. With her, there was no lingering tension, no unspoken possibility. Just two people who had recognized each other clearly and moved on without regret. Naruto appreciated that more than he expected. Hinata felt the difference in the smallest ways. Naruto no longer filled pauses with reassurance when she hesitated. He trusted her silence. He trusted her strength. When they trained together, he corrected her when needed, but he also stepped back when she didn't need him. One evening, they sat quietly after training, watching the sky darken. You don't seem anxious around feelings anymore, Hinata said softly. Naruto smiled. I think I stopped being afraid of them. Hinata nodded. Fear makes feelings louder than they need to be. Naruto looked at her, struck by the simplicity of the truth. With Hinata, feelings were never chaotic. They did not clash or compete. They existed gently, layered with trust, patience, and time. Naruto realized that this was what emotional maturity felt like. Not choosing one feeling to the exclusion of others, but knowing which feelings asked for space and which asked for stillness. As days passed, Naruto noticed how his own emotions changed. He felt affection without urgency. Connection without possession. Warmth without expectation. These were not lesser emotions. They were complete. Naruto understood then that many of the feelings surrounding him were not unfinished stories. They were finished moments. Perfect as they were. One night, Naruto sat alone and reflected on how stories were usually told. Heroes were expected to simplify their hearts. To choose one path. To define their emotions clearly. But Naruto's life had never been simple. Why should his heart be? He realized that his story was not about resolving every feeling into romance or commitment. It was about learning how to live honestly among many emotional truths. And honesty did not always mean action. Sometimes, it meant restraint. Sometimes, it meant respect. Sometimes, it meant letting feelings exist without demanding they become something else. Naruto Uzumaki finally accepted something that changed everything. Not every feeling was asking for a future. Some were asking only to be acknowledged. And once acknowledged, they no longer weighed him down. They became part of him. Quiet, integrated, human. His story was not about one love. It was about emotional awareness, empathy without self-erasure, connection without confusion. And as Naruto looked out over the village that night, he felt something settle deeply within him. Not certainty, not conclusion, understanding. And that understanding was enough. Naruto slowly came to understand that emotional maturity did not arrive with a single realization. It arrived in layers. Each day added a little more clarity, not because answers appeared, but because questions stopped frightening him. He no longer felt the urge to categorize what he felt or to translate every connection into something recognizable. Instead, he allowed feelings to remain what they were: fluid, situational, honest. And in doing so, he stopped feeling trapped by them. He noticed it most during ordinary days. A short conversation in the marketplace that left him smiling long after it ended. A quiet walk beside someone where words were unnecessary. A moment of shared laughter that carried no expectations beyond the moment itself. Earlier in his life, Naruto would have clung to those moments, wondering what they meant, worrying whether they were leading somewhere. Now, he simply let them pass through him. Not forgotten. Integrated. During a training session with several kunoichi, Naruto was asked for advice. He listened carefully, then answered simply, without over-explaining, without inserting himself emotionally into the situation. Afterward, one of them said, almost surprised, "You don't make things heavier than they are." Naruto thought about that. He used to carry emotions as if they were responsibilities. As if every feeling he inspired had to be returned in equal measure. Now he understood that emotional balance was not about equal exchange. It was about honesty without obligation. Sakura noticed the difference during a quiet evening walk. They spoke about mundane things: supply shortages, training schedules, plans for the next month. At one point, Sakura stopped and looked at him. "You don't feel like you're trying to be everything for everyone anymore," she said. Naruto nodded. "I don't think I ever was. I just thought I had to be." Quote. Sakura smiled softly. "You don't." With Sakura, the feeling was no longer romantic, no longer unresolved. It was the comfort of shared history without tension, a bond that had settled into something strong and reliable. Naruto realized that love did not need to remain romantic to remain meaningful. Ino experienced the change differently. She confronted it head on, as she always did. "You're not confusing me anymore," she said one afternoon, arms crossed, expression serious. Naruto blinked. "That's good, right?" Ino nodded. "Yeah, it is. Confusion isn't exciting when it stops being honest." Naruto appreciated her for that. With Ino, feelings were sharp, but they were also clean. There was no illusion between them anymore, only mutual awareness. What remained was not longing. It was respect. Temari's influence remained subtle but important. Whenever Naruto felt tempted to overthink, he remembered her words about balance. He remembered that empathy did not require self-sacrifice, that understanding did not mean absorbing every emotion around him. With Temari, feelings had never asked for continuation. They had existed fully in the moment and then settled naturally. Naruto realized that was not loss. It was completion. Hinata remained a constant presence, but not in the way people expected. She did not occupy more space as Naruto grew calmer. She did not demand more attention. If anything, their connection became quieter, more internal. They trained together occasionally, spoke when they needed to, shared silence without discomfort. Naruto noticed that around Hinata, his thoughts slowed naturally, not because he was suppressing them, but because there was nothing he needed to defend or explain. "You don't rush anymore," Hinata said softly one evening. Naruto smiled. "I think I stopped fearing silence." Hinata nodded. "Silence holds truth if you let it." Naruto felt that truth settle in his chest. As weeks passed, Naruto realized something important. Feelings did not disappear just because they were understood. They changed shape. Affection softened into warmth. Attraction matured into respect. Love transformed into trust. None of these changes diminished the original emotion. They honored it. Naruto thought about how many stories demanded resolution. One choice, one ending, one truth. But life, he realized, was not written that way. Life allowed multiple truths to exist at once. He could care deeply without committing romantically. He could feel warmth without promising permanence. He could acknowledge affection without returning it in the same form. And that did not make him cruel. It made him honest. Late one night, Naruto stood again on his balcony, the village quiet below him. He no longer searched the lights for meaning. He simply observed them, feeling connected without being pulled. I don't need to narrow my heart, he thought. I need to understand it. Naruto Uzumaki's story was not about one love conquering all others. It was about learning to live fully among many feelings, without guilt, without confusion, without fear. And that realization did not end his story. It deepened it. Naruto began to notice that once he stopped trying to define his emotions, people around him began to change as well. Not dramatically, not suddenly, but subtly, like water adjusting its course when a stone is moved. People spoke more freely around him now. Not because they wanted his approval, but because they felt no pressure to impress or persuade. Naruto listened without leaning forward, without the instinct to fix or promise. And in that listening, something unexpected happened. People trusted him more. He saw it during a late evening meeting meant to organize village patrols. The discussion turned tense when opinions differed. Naruto watched the exchange quietly, eyes attentive, posture relaxed. When someone finally turned to him, expecting a decisive statement, he paused. What do you think? They asked. Naruto thought for a moment before answering. I think everyone here already knows what needs to be done, he said calmly. You just needed space to say it. The tension dissolved. Naruto realized that once, he would have taken control of the conversation. Now, he simply held it steady until others found their footing. Feelings, he understood, behaved the same way. They didn't need to be controlled. They needed space. Sakura experienced this shift deeply. She found herself speaking more openly around Naruto than she had in years. Not about love, not about the past, but about doubts, frustrations, small fears she didn't usually share. One night, while organizing supplies together, she stopped mid-task and said, "You don't make me feel like I have to be strong all the time." Naruto looked at her, surprised. You've always been strong, he said. Sakura shook her head. That's not what I mean. Around you now, I don't feel like strength is required. Naruto understood. That was not romance. That was emotional safety. And he honored it by not trying to turn it into anything else. Ino noticed something different in herself as well. She no longer felt the impulse to test Naruto's reactions or provoke clarity through confrontation. Instead, she found herself more aware of her own emotions, where they began, where they ended, and what they actually wanted. You know, she said one afternoon, arms crossed thoughtfully, I used to think feelings had to go somewhere. Naruto smiled. I used to think that too. Ino nodded. Now I think some feelings just pass through. Quote. Naruto agreed. And in that agreement, Ino felt something settle. Not disappointment. Not loss. Understanding. Temari's influence returned through memory rather than presence. Naruto recalled her certainty, her ability to respect emotions without being consumed by them. He realized that she had never tried to hold on to feelings longer than they were meant to last. They had existed. They had mattered. And then they had changed. Naruto saw now that this was not coldness. It was wisdom. Hinata remained the quiet constant in all of this. Naruto noticed that when the world felt loud, even in peace, his thoughts naturally slowed around her. Not because she demanded attention, but because she offered calm without expectation. They walked together one evening through a quiet stretch of the village. Lanterns cast soft light on the path. You don't seem burdened by emotions anymore, Hinata said gently. Naruto considered her words. I think I stopped treating them like problems. Hinata smiled softly. Feelings aren't meant to be solved. Naruto looked at her, struck by the simplicity and truth of the statement. With Hinata, feelings never escalated. They deepened quietly, layering trust over time rather than urgency. Naruto realized something important then. Many of the feelings around him were not incomplete versions of love waiting for resolution. They were complete experiences, shared moments of trust, quiet admiration, mutual respect, emotional comfort. Trying to force them into romance would have diminished them. And Naruto no longer wanted to diminish anything. He began to understand that his heart was not confused. It was complex. And complexity did not require simplification to be valid. Naruto thought about how often people were told to choose, to define themselves by one relationship, one emotion, one truth. But Naruto had never fit neatly into expectations. Why should his emotional life be any different? Late that night, Naruto sat quietly, listening to the village settle into sleep. He felt connected to it, not as a hero, not as a symbol, but as a person among others, sharing space, sharing sharing feelings that did not need ownership. I don't have to reduce myself, he thought. I can be honest without being exclusive. Naruto Uzumaki's story was not about choosing one love over others. It was about learning how to live fully with many feelings, acknowledged, respected, and allowed to exist without being forced into permanence. And that realization did not close any doors. It simply taught him how to stand without leaning on them. Naruto reached a point where emotions no longer surprised him. They arrived quietly now, without sharp edges. He could feel them without being pulled apart by them. That change did not come from discipline or control. It came from acceptance. Naruto finally understood that emotions did not weaken him. What weakened him was the fear of mishandling them. Once that fear faded, everything else followed. He noticed it during a simple mission escorting civilians outside the village. There was no danger, no urgency, just long stretches of walking and quiet conversation. One of the women traveling with them spoke about her worries, her uncertainty about the future, her fear of choosing the wrong path. Naruto listened. He did not offer advice. He did not reassure her with promises or heroic words. He simply nodded, acknowledging her fear without diminishing it. Later, she said softly, "You didn't try to fix anything." Quote. Naruto smiled. "You didn't ask me to." She looked relieved. Naruto realized then that many feelings did not want solutions. They wanted space. Back in Konoha, this understanding deepened. He no longer felt responsible for how people interpreted their feelings toward him. That responsibility belonged to honesty, not control. Naruto could only control how truthfully he showed up, not how emotions formed around him. That distinction freed him. Sakura noticed that Naruto no longer sought her approval or reassurance. During a late-night inventory check, she caught him quietly observing the room instead of engaging in conversation. "You're comfortable being quiet now," she said. Naruto nodded. "I used to think silence meant something was wrong." Sakura smiled. "Silence just means nothing needs to be said." They stood together without speaking for several minutes, the silence warm, unforced. Sakura realized then that her feelings for Naruto had transformed fully. What remained was not longing or regret. It was trust. And trust, she knew, was sometimes deeper than love. Ino confronted a truth of her own. She found Naruto resting beneath a tree after training and sat beside him, expression thoughtful. "I figured something out," she said. Naruto looked at her. "Yeah. I don't need my feelings to turn into a relationship to be real," Ino said calmly. Naruto nodded. "Neither do I. Ino smiled, not playfully, not defensively, but with genuine peace. For the first time, she did not feel like she was waiting for anything. Temari's words returned again in Naruto's thoughts, clearer than before. Balance is knowing when to hold, and when to let exist. Naruto realized that his connections with people were not threads pulling him in different directions. They were layers shaping who he was. Hinata sensed the shift more deeply than anyone else. Naruto no longer carried emotional tension around her. There was no unresolved weight, no unspoken pressure. Just presence. Just awareness. They trained together one morning, movements aligned, breath steady. When they finished, they sat quietly, the air still. You seem settled, Hinata said softly. Naruto nodded. I think I finally understand myself. Hinata smiled. That's a rare thing. Naruto looked at her and felt warmth. Not urgency, not longing. Understanding. With Hinata, emotions never crowded him. They made space. Naruto began to see his life not as a story needing resolution, but as a landscape shaped by experience. Some feelings were valleys, quiet, reflective. Some were rivers, flowing through him without stopping. Some were mountains, solid, unmoving, always present. None of them needed to replace the others. They simply existed together. One evening, Naruto stood alone watching the sunset over the village. He did not think about the past or the future. He thought about now. He was not confused. He was not searching. He was aware. Naruto Uzumaki had spent his life believing he needed to choose one dream, one path, one love. Now he understood something deeper. Some stories are not about choosing one feeling. They're about learning how to carry many feelings without losing yourself. And Naruto had finally learned how to do that. Naruto began to notice something that quietly surprised him. The more he accepted emotions as they were, the less tangled they became. Once, feelings had felt like storms, sudden, overwhelming, impossible to predict. Now they felt more like weather patterns he could observe without being consumed by. Some days were warm, some were heavy, some were calm and gray. None of them demanded he become someone else to endure them. And for the first time, Naruto felt emotionally steady. He spent a long afternoon helping rebuild a small section of the village wall that had cracked over time. Civilians worked alongside shinobi, talking about ordinary things, family, plans, frustrations. Naruto listened quietly, offering help when asked, stepping back when not needed. A young kunoichi hesitated before speaking to him. You always make it feel okay to talk, she said awkwardly. Naruto blinked. I do. She nodded. You don't rush people. Naruto smiled faintly. He realized that many feelings did not grow because of grand gestures. They grew because of patience. Later, Naruto walked alone through a quiet district, reflecting on how much had changed. He used to feel responsible for everyone's happiness, as if he were the axis on which their emotions turned. That belief had been exhausting, and unfair, to him and to others. Now he understood something vital. People owned their feelings. He could respect them without carrying them. Sakura felt this shift clearly. During a late shift, she paused mid-conversation and studied Naruto carefully. You don't lean on people emotionally anymore, she said. Naruto tilted his head. I used to. Yes, Sakura replied gently. Not in a bad way. You needed connection. Now, you stand on your own. Naruto considered that. I think I finally learned how, he said. Sakura smiled, eyes warm. I'm glad. There was no sadness in her voice. Only pride. Ino experienced her own quiet transformation. She no longer felt compelled to draw reactions out of Naruto. The teasing faded into easy conversation, the tension into mutual understanding. One day, she said plainly, I don't feel like I need anything from you anymore. Naruto nodded. That's a good place to be. Quote. Ino smiled. Yeah. It really is. Naruto realized that what remained between them was not absence. It was balance. Temari's presence returned briefly through another visit to Konoha. They spoke without ceremony, without emotional undertones. You look lighter, she observed. Naruto nodded. I stopped thinking feelings had to lead somewhere. Temari smirked. They don't. They just need honesty. With her, Naruto felt no unfinished tension. Just mutual respect, solid and uncomplicated. Hinata remained the quiet center around which everything else seemed to settle. Naruto noticed that when his thoughts grew crowded, being near her slowed them naturally. She did not ask him questions that demanded answers. She did not pull emotions toward herself. She allowed them space. One evening, as they sat quietly after training, Naruto spoke. I used to think having many feelings meant I was confused. Quote. Hinata shook her head softly. It means you're aware. Naruto looked at her, struck by the truth in her words. With Hinata, feelings never competed. They coexisted. Naruto reflected deeply that night. He had spent years believing stories needed resolution. Clear lines, definitive endings, singular truths. But real life did not work that way. Real people were layered. Real emotions overlapped. Trying to simplify them only created harm. Naruto realized his heart was not divided. It was expanded. He stood on his balcony again, looking out over the village, not searching for meaning, but acknowledging it. I don't have to choose one feeling to be whole, he thought. I just have to be honest with all of them. That honesty did not demand declarations or decisions. It demanded awareness. And Naruto had finally learned how to live with awareness, without fear, without guilt, without urgency. His story was not about one love. It was about many feelings, all valid, all shaping him, none owning him. And that understanding continued to quietly redefine who Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto reached a stage where he no longer tried to interpret every emotional exchange. Earlier in his life, he had believed that understanding meant decoding, reading expressions, replaying conversations, searching for hidden meanings. Now, he understood that understanding often meant allowing things to remain exactly as they were. Feelings did not lose their value simply because they were not explained. They gained value by being respected. He noticed this during a quiet afternoon at the memorial stone. Naruto stood there alone at first, hands in his pockets, eyes tracing names carved into stone. Loss, gratitude, grief, pride, all of it existed here without contradiction. None of these emotions cancelled the others out. They coexisted. That realization stayed with him. Life, he thought, worked the same way. People began to approach Naruto differently now. Not with expectation. Not with hope disguised as humor. Not with emotional tension. They approached him with openness. A kunoichi spoke to him about self-doubt. A civilian spoke to him about fear of change. A fellow shinobi spoke to him about exhaustion. Naruto listened to all of them the same way. Without absorbing their emotions. Without pushing solutions. Without turning connection into obligation. And because of that, people left feeling lighter, not because Naruto had fixed anything, but because he had not added weight. Sakura noticed this shift during a routine check-in. You don't carry conversations with you anymore, she said thoughtfully. Naruto looked at her. I used to. All the time, Sakura replied. You replayed them. Wondered if you'd said enough. If you'd done enough. Quote. Naruto exhaled slowly. I thought that was caring. Sakura smiled gently. Caring doesn't mean holding on forever. Naruto nodded. With Sakura, the feeling was now something solid and finished, not abandoned, not erased, but complete. Their shared history no longer asked for continuation. It simply existed. Ino felt the change in herself more than in Naruto. She realized she no longer waited after conversations with him. No longer wondered if she should say something differently next time. Her emotions no longer lingered in uncertainty. You're not a question mark anymore, she said one day. Naruto raised an eyebrow. I was a question mark. Ino nodded. Yeah. Now you're a sentence. Naruto smiled at that. Ino smiled back, not flirtatious, not wistful, just settled. She had found where her feelings belonged. And they did not belong in waiting. Temari's influence remained steady in Naruto's thinking. He remembered how she never stayed in emotional spaces longer than they served her growth. She acknowledged feelings honestly, then allowed them to change without resentment. Naruto finally understood that strength was not about endurance alone. It was about knowing when to release. Hinata felt the depth of Naruto's growth most quietly. He no longer leaned into her presence for reassurance. He stood beside her, equal and steady. When they trained together, he trusted her instincts fully. When they spoke, he listened without expectation. One evening, as they walked back from training, Hinata said softly, "You don't feel pulled anymore." Naruto thought for a moment. "I think I stopped pulling myself." Quote. Hinata smiled. With Hinata, emotions never pressed forward. They rested. Naruto reflected deeply that night. He had once believed emotions demanded clarity in the form of decisions. That feelings only became meaningful when acted upon. Now he knew better. Some emotions were meant to inform. Some were meant to soften. Some were meant to pass through. Some were meant to stay quietly in the background. None of them needed to become romance to be real. He thought about how stories were written. Heroes were expected to narrow their lives into singular paths. One love, one destiny, one defining choice. But Naruto had never lived a narrow life. Why should his emotional world be any different? Standing beneath the open sky, Naruto felt something that did not need a name. Not happiness. Not peace. Alignment. His thoughts, his actions, his emotions were no longer at odds with each other. He was not divided. He was integrated. Naruto Uzumaki had learned something rare. Something no battle could teach. How to live with many feelings without being ruled by any of them. And that understanding continued to shape his story. Quietly, steadily, honestly. Naruto Uzumaki finally understood that his heart had never been confused. It had been full. Full of moments that mattered without demanding permanence. Full of connections that shaped him without asking to own him. Full of emotions that did not cancel each other out simply because they existed at the same time. For most of his life, Naruto had believed that feelings needed direction, or they would become burdens. He thought they had to lead somewhere concrete, end in something definable, or else they were unfinished. Now he knew the truth. Some feelings were complete the moment they were felt. He looked back on the bonds that had shaped him. Sakura had shown him growth without possession, strength without dependency. Their shared past was no longer a question waiting for an answer. It was a foundation that had already done its work. Ino had shown him clarity without illusion, honesty without expectation. What remained between them was not longing, but respect that did not need to become anything else to be real. Temari had shown him balance, the power of acknowledging emotions without being consumed by them. With her, Naruto had learned that not every connection was meant to continue. Some were meant to strengthen and then release. Hinata had shown him stillness. Not urgency, not demand, just presence. Around her, emotions did not compete or escalate. They settled. They made space. They existed without pressure. None of these feelings diminished the others. They completed him. Naruto realized that his story had never been about narrowing his heart to fit a single narrative. It was about learning how to live honestly inside complexity. About understanding that affection did not always want romance. That warmth did not always want commitment. That love did not always want a future. Sometimes, feelings only wanted acknowledgement. And once acknowledged, they stopped asking for more. Standing quietly beneath the open sky, Naruto felt no need to choose, declare, or resolve anything. He was no longer chasing meaning. He was living it. His emotions no longer pulled him apart. They informed him, softened him, grounded him. He was not ruled by them, nor did he deny them. He walked beside them. Naruto Uzumaki's story was not about one love conquering all others. It was about a man who learned how to hold many feelings without losing himself. And that understanding did not end his journey. It gave it depth. Thank you.